I got real excited about this because I talked to Debbie about doing a story earlier, and she gave me 2 options. And I picked playing with fire because I immediately had one, and I took it a very literal sense of a time that I actually played with fire. As Debbie said, I played in a team called Minnesota Nice. We call ourselves that because we're all from Minnesota, and as anybody could possibly tell, Minnesota is ridiculously freezing 9 months out of the year. And the other 3 months, it's not bad, but it's still a pretty terrible place to live. And so it's pretty standard in everybody's house to actually have a fireplace, which are fantastic, and I love them. But in the first house I kind of started growing up in, it was this black, just cast iron fireplace of death is kind of what we called it, because there were little children running around all the time, and this thing was out from the wall. And it would get ridiculously hot because the fire is just right inside of it, and so many children would run just like face first into this thing, and burns aplenty, and it was just a terrible situation. But then we moved to our new home, and the new place had this amazing fireplace. It was the entire span of a wall. It was entirely brick. The fireplace itself was up 3 feet off the ground. There was a brick ledge coming off of it, and it was fantastic. We moved to that house when I was in 2nd grade, and I wasn't allowed to do anything with it because they're like, "You're too young, we're not going to let you touch it." Which kind of actually really bummed me out. It's like, "Oh, it's fire, it's great," because me, like most kids, is an extreme pyromaniac. But when I hit 4th grade, that's when it kind of became my responsibility. I had to tend the fire, I was in charge of chopping wood, and hauling it, which at 10 years old is a lot of responsibility, but I took it on in stride. It was also kind of my responsibility because I was the one in the basement, which is exactly what the fireplace was. And the way our fireplace worked is that you'd throw the logs in and you'd close these 2 big glass doors. And it would kick on a heater as soon as it got hot enough, and that would blow the hot air throughout the entire house. And I would kick in angry because heat rises, and my room is on the opposite end of the fireplace. And so I would wake up in the middle of the night just ridiculously freezing as soon as the fire would burn down, which pissed me off, and was another reason I was happy to finally get fireplace tending goals. But it was also meaning I was getting up like 3 times a night to actually like feed the fire. So this one night, I had this great idea that if I'm waking up 3 times to put fire in throughout the night, to put logs in, I'm just going to put in that amount of logs right away at the beginning of the night. Because I think that's going to work out really well. So I wait for the fire to burn down and everybody go to bed because I don't want anyone to know what my great idea is. And I let the fire burn down, and I stack 4 huge logs in each corner. And I put 2x4s across them and then kind of lean them in. So that when the fire in the middle burns down and burns the 2x4s, these will fall in eventually. And keep the fire going all night. And like, to me, this is genius. And so I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome." And I start the fire up, and I close the doors, and I shuffle off to bed. Well, that's about 2 o'clock in the morning, because I did this at about midnight, because I'm a night owl. And in my house, we have something called a pocket door separating the upstairs from the downstairs. Anybody who doesn't know what that is you build a door into a wall and then it slides, and it's hidden. I would partially close this, trying to, again, trap as much heat downstairs as I possibly could. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I wake up to this sound. God damn it! Because what had happened is the heat had gotten so much, because all the logs were falling in at this point, that it was melting wires throughout our house as the heat was traveling through the ducts. And my father, who was sleeping upstairs, woke up, came running downstairs, in the dark, didn't realize the pocket door was partially closed, and just slammed the floor door into it. So that's what wakes me up, because I'm nice and cozy, just at the perfect temperature. And so I wake up and start walking out there, and I see him, and he's standing at the fireplace, not really knowing what to do, because this just ridiculously bright orange light is shining on him. And so he reaches for the doors, and it was 2 little wooden handles. I realize he burned himself on the doors, because again I hear, "God damn it!" He throws the doors open, and flames are just like shooting out. Like it was like backdraft, except without the explosion. And so he's kind of freaking out because he doesn't know what to do, and so he grabs the closest thing to him to try to get the flame back, which happens to be a stack of newspaper. Great thing to keep next to a fireplace. So he grabs a newspaper, and he's just frantic with just like waving at it and like trying to catch the fire back. But if anyone's ever heard the expression fanning the flames, that's what that was doing. It was just making the fire get bigger. And so my mom, who's also, she comes downstairs, and they're both just pouring with sweat because it was like 110 degrees upstairs. And she's like, she starts freaking out because she sees my dad, and while my dad is doing this, the newspapers themselves actually catch on fire because he's making the flames bigger. And so mom's like trying to yell at him and trying to yell at him. He's like, shut up, I don't know what I'm doing. And because, again, it's snowy in Minnesota in the winter, my mom would move her plants that she had potted outside inside. And my dad had rigged up this system where he brought the garden hose in and we attached it to our laundry tub. And so mom, it's a great idea. She's like, oh, I can fix this. So she goes into the laundry room, which is this way. She grabs the laundry hose and comes out the door, and he's going to run and spray the shit out of the fire. But the laundry hose was curled around the top of the sink. And so mom actually makes it about 4 feet, and then the hose gets stuck. And mom's hand is in, because we have one of those spray handles on it, so mom's hand gets stuck in the hose, and mom goes down. So now, because of me and my great idea, I've got mom on the floor in pain. I've got dad fanning flames with a flaming newspaper, trying to get this thing figured out. So mom's kind of in pain, but she's still pretty with us. So she's on the ground, like aiming the fire hose at it, like just trying to get the fire taken care of. Spraying my dad in the face, like just... Eventually, we got it under control, and I say we because I was standing by as a participant, so I think that had something to do with it. The fire kind of goes down, and my dad is kind of standing there, and he's covered in water and ash, and he's holding the burnt newspaper, just kind of looking at me like just... We'll talk about this in the morning. That's okay. I kind of shuffle off to bed, just kind of okay with myself, because it's still pretty warm in the basement. I wake up in the morning, and we kind of inspect the fireplace, and part of the glass had actually kind of melted a little bit because of the heat inside of it. The inside of the wood was burnt completely. It turns out that one of my grandma's Afghans had like gotten sparks and had burned through. And my dad looks at me and goes, you did wrong, right? I was like, yeah, I kind of know that now. He goes, okay, good. Your punishment? You're going to keep this fire going for the rest of the winter. And I'm like, that's what you're punishing me with? Is the thing that I fucked up with? And you're going to make me do it more often? He's like, oh yeah, you're also going to chop the wood. I was like, I'm doing that anyway. So what does that matter? Really the whole moral of the story is I'm extremely grateful to my father for not whooping my ass when I was burning the house down.